right. Yes, really does now.
Hello again and welcome to another Collector's Lot USA. We're in quite an unusual location this week, not a house but a whole western town. Laredo in the heart of the Kent countryside is an authentic replica of a Wild West frontier town. Members stay here at the weekend and relish the chance to get away from the pressures of modern living and play at cowboys for a while. They live, eat and sleep the American dream in houses which they've decorated with original fixtures and fittings. Later in the programme, a puzzling collection to befuddle the brain. I'll be getting around with a Beach Boys collector and working up a lather with some cutthroat razors. First though, if you were watching yesterday, you'll remember we met Charles Rand Penny, the man with 100 different collections. Time ran out before we could see his Mr. Peanut paraphernalia, so Laura Beaumont went back for a second look.
These days, if a company wants a new advertising logo, they'll get in an ad agency, some creative consultants, do a bit of audience research. But back in 1916, things were so much simpler. All it took to create one of the most popular advertising icons of the 20th century was a 14-year-old boy who decided to put some arms and legs on a peanut and call it Mr. Peanuts. Now, Charles, you've come out of your shell a bit. Mr. Peanut collection. What a great collection for you. When did this start?
Isn't this fun? Oh, about 20 years ago. Sure. Because, you know, peanuts are marvelous. You have them at cocktail hour and that kind of thing. And I started with peanut bags, little plastic bags.
Yeah.
And then from there, it grew into other elements of Mr. Peanut. I try and be very thorough. I mean, they're banks and salt and pepper shakers. There's spoons, there's forks, there's knives, there's jewelry, there's bags.
There's everything.
Everything.
And what about this line of gorgeous guys here? What do they do?
They're bags. And you see, different colors are more valuable than others. But you can see on the bag here, it's very light, it's plastic, and you can see the slot on the top where you drop the coin in, and then it would fill up like that, and then you wouldn't have to break it. You could just empty it, you see, when you put your coins in.
What is the history of Mr. Peanut? I mean, where did he come from?
Well, it's very interesting. It started in 1889. A chap by the name of Amedeo Obici. He was only 12 years old. He was an Italian immigrant. 7 years later, Obici went into business for himself. He bought a peanut roaster and opened his own fruit and nut stand. Well, it went on from there to become Planters Nut and Chocolate Company with his future brother-in-law. And they had 8 employees, and it grew and grew and grew until it finally became what it is today, Planters Peanuts.
And where do you get all your bits and pieces from?
Well, from a lot of different sources. We get them, Kathy Leacock, who is the curator of this collection, gets them from the internet. And then I'm a member of Peanut Pals, too.
You're a Peanut Pal? What's the Peanut Pal sign?
Isn't that exciting?
I know.
Yeah, right. Well, these are members all over the world. Yeah. And I'm member 700 or whatever it is. And anyway, they exchange. They have national meetings. Now, next year, they'll be meeting in Rochester, New York, so I'll have to be there.
So, I mean, are these expensive, or do they cost peanuts?
Well, they do get expensive. Now, you were looking, I think, at one of these cars. Just let me tell you, I'll give you an example. This car here, I bought a number of years ago for $65, you see. Now, the
$65?
Yeah, well, now, fasten your seatbelt. The other day, my dealer friend, you see this comes in several colors, brought this one here. Do you have any idea how much I had to pay for that?
I would like to speculate.
$475.
You get a real car for that.
Yeah, so you see, from $65 to $475, the prices have really gone up. The same thing is true of these banks. I mean, you might be able to buy those banks maybe 15 or 20 years ago, like $8 or $9. I think the blue bank here now sells for about $250.
So which is your favorite Mr. Peanut piece?
Well, they're all my favorite ones. And of course, you think of Mr. Peanut at the cocktail time, and you can see right at the end there's some martini glasses. So you can have peanuts and your martinis.
And what do you think the attraction is of Mr. Peanut? Why do people love him so much?
He has such personality. Don't you think he's different? You know, it's sort of Americana. I don't know, you'd almost call it an American icon, I suppose.
Hello? Hello? You like my piece I did about you? You want me to do your next advertising campaign? Fantastic. This isn't exactly what I had in mind. Peanuts! Get your peanuts! Come and get your peanuts! You won't get David Stafford doing this.
Completely nuts. Now, I'm joined in Laredo's general store by someone who's literally at the cutting edge of collecting. A cutthroat razor was probably one of the few essentials that a cowboy kept in his saddlebag. Paul Lockwood has brought along his collection of razors to show us. Tell me, why did you begin collecting these?
Well, originally I used to collect penknives, just normal penknives. And I was at a local auction one day, and I saw some cutthroat razors in a cabinet. I thought, they're quite nice. I mean, I put the bid in, very low bid, and I got them for about £6, I think.
Do you spend much on this collection?
No, not at all. If I pay £4 for a razor, I've paid a lot of money.
What's the most you've ever spent?
The most I've ever spent is £10 on this one, which is very nice, ivory, inlaid with mother of pearl.
What do you so admire about them?
I always like this one, the craftsmanship. It's, you know, the workmanship that's gone into that, and the detail, and there's such a varied amount of detail in them, and so they're so nice. Compared to penknives to me are very plain.
The handles are made of all sorts of different things, aren't they? I mean, we've got horn ones here and a wooden one. This looks like ivory here, tortoise shell. Tell me which are some of the oldest ones among all of them.
Well, these two at the end, these are some of the oldest ones. The only way I can date them is by the square ends. That's a hunting scene, hunter going out and returning with his game.
And this one here, it seems to have a 2 on it. Any clue as to why that might be?
That possibly could be part of a 7-day set with the 2 on it.
A 7-day set?
Yeah, well, if you was sort of wealthy, well-to-do, you would have a 7-day set in a box, and you could use a razor for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, instead of just using one.
So is this a 7-day set that we have in the beautiful velvet-lined box?
That's a bit special, that one. I've never seen one like it before. You normally get a normal size razor, 7 of them in a box, but this is just a handle and 7 blades, and it's ivory inlaid with gold, and you just slip the handle for each day of the week into the blades in the handle.
These are very decorative ones here, all sorts of different patterns on the handles.
Yes, this one, I mean, it's a plastic handle, but it's inlaid with silver.
I like the peacock one too.
Yes, I mean, that's probably only plastic end, but it's been pressed. And you've got inlaid with enamel, flowers, very nice.
How easy is it to research this whole subject and to know the value of them?
Very hard research. I bought a book from America for values of razors, but trying to find out the history of, like, the English razors, the Australian and the American, it's very difficult. It's I find a very limited subject to find any information on at all.
Why did they fall out of use?
Well, I think because of the modern safety razor with disposable blades, you don't have to use a strop or anything like that, and that was it. Cutthroats have gone.
You're very clean-shaven. Do you ever use any of these?
No way. I use a disposable razor.
Not surprised, and you'd need a very steady hand if you were going to use any of these. Great to see them all. Thank you very much for bringing them along to show us. Time to catch up with quilt maker Maggie Gordon, who's stitching a special quilted wall hanging for the programme all week. Today we begin by finding out how her love of sewing and her passion for quilts came about.
When I moved to Chiswick in '81, I guess, I decided I wanted to do some stitching again, and I took up embroidery, but somehow I ran out of ideas for cushion covers. And the teacher had been doing a bit of quilting herself and showed us some things that I thought were very nice. And I discovered from her that there was a shop in Hampton Court doing classes. So I took myself off one Saturday and I made this. And that was my very first quilt. When I look at it now, I think, good grief. But it's... Still, there it is, that's the history. My family have suffered from this obsession to the point that my husband now will willingly go to quilt exhibitions with me because he likes looking at them as well. So here we are again with the quilt I'm making for Jan. If you remember yesterday, I made 3 of each of these color blocks, and today what we're going to do is put them together with a blue square in these blank spaces and make a bigger 9-patch. So what we have to do is cut this material into squares and stitch it together. Right. So again, we have to line up all the edges we can and then cut an absolutely straight line there using the edge of the ruler to measure by. And then flip the whole thing around again. And this time we're cutting squares that measure the same as these squares, which is 3.5 inches, because I checked. So we find the 3.5-inch mark on this, and we cut a strip. And this little ruler actually measures an exact square and makes it much, much easier to cut. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4, and that gives me a square to go in each of the spaces in the big square. Right, so I've brought everything over to the sewing machine. Now I've got those bits cut out, and now you can begin to see the pattern for this double 9-patch block that is going to become the finished quilts one of these days. What I'm going to do is stitch these together first of all in rows, and then I'm going to stitch the rows together, and we'll have a finished block before you know it. Now these need to be pressed out flat, as we've done with the other stitch pieces. Right, so that's that bit finished. So now what I have to do is make 2 more just like that and then join them together. In between each of the blocks I've put a strip of black fabric that's called sashing, which separates the blocks, and at the ends, top and bottom end, I've put another strip, the same, which will be part of the border at the finished piece. So what I'm doing now is pressing all the seams nice and flat, first down the back, and then I'm going to turn it over and press them down again from the front, because that will make it all very much easier to do the quilting, which we'll do tomorrow.
Don't miss tomorrow's programme when the quilt is finished and hung in its new home. That's it for part 1. Coming up in part 2, there's a collection of puzzles to flummox the best of us, and I'll be getting some good vibrations from a big fan of the Beach Boys. Don't go away.
Guess who didn't have their Horlicks last night? Horlicks helps you sleep better, feel better.
How do you think I felt, a woman like me? I've always stayed fit and healthy, but to suddenly start